This is the funds control course, June 2015. Part 5, Agency Appropriations and Distribution of Funds. So it's only 2015 here when we're recording this. You may be watching it, it may be 2020, we don't know. But here at EPA's Office of Budget, we're already planning for 2017. So Joe's going to talk a little bit about that whole bit about planning way ahead and stuff.
Okay, so this chart up here shows EPA's congressional budget process. And if you notice, if you're looking at it, there are 4 years up there, but at any one given time, we're really conducting 3 budget years. That's what we're thinking about in the Office of Budget. Our past year, 2014 prior, that's when all the audits and investigations and all those follow-ups are taking place, financial statements are being prepared. The current year, 2015, is what most of us actually are working in. We're the execution wing, and this is when we are spending, we're monitoring, we're obligating funds. 2016, that's the year that we're getting ready for. We've had our hearings on the Hill, Senate committee, House committee, debates going on. And then 2017, as Richard mentioned, that's what we're starting to think about now. NPMs are getting together to make proposals, and there's going to be a big budget forum where some of the big high priority decisions are going to be getting made. So while us, the execution wing, is focusing on one end, we really have 3 years going on at once. So Congress.gov, it's a part of my job on the control team when the bill is being developed and then once it's passed, to go on to Congress.gov, that's where all the bills are listed. So if any of you have any question about an appropriations, you can go to Congress.gov, and there's actually an appropriations tab, and it will list for each fiscal year whether there was a CR, the one that became the full year bill. It will list them all. But we go on there, and that's where we kind of find out what way the committees are leaning. Because on there, you'll also be able to see all the reports that are coming out. And especially with EPA, there's always a lot of hot debate and hot talk out there. So we have House and Senate reports that the committees, again, we're in the Department of Interior Subcommittee for Appropriations, that when they're debating, going on in these debates, we have earmarks. Are they going to control us on certain reprogrammings? What's sensitive to the committee in those specific years? That's really what's going to be brought up in those House reports. And I'll mention it later. You saw a while ago, our paragraph funding us for each appropriation is fairly small, yet we get a lot of guidance from Congress, and it really comes in these reports. So this is sample language of a congressional report for EPM. And so this one is, whenever they recommend a decrease or an increase at any of our programs, it lists it out specifically. So you can see we do get quite detailed information from the Hill. And it's usually at a higher level. We're getting this from a program aspect up from Congress. We then implement it down in our programs and program projects. These are overall direction, though. We'll talk about reprogramming in a few sections, but here's our statement that's saying, Congress gives us a budget, and they give us a budget with the intent of us spending it how they gave it to us. But as with any bill, even your own home personal finances, anything performed or done 2 years in advance is going to require some tweaking. So we do reprogrammings here at EPA, and we do a lot of them. And it's very common, but we just have to stick within the guidelines that are given to us, and again, we'll find that out any year, what limits they want to give us. So here you can see the reprogramming limitation of $1 million annually, or 10%. If that changes, it would most likely be in a report.
I have a question.
Waiting on a question.
So the $1 million ahead is for the whole agency?
I'll explain it more. It's based on program area and some select program projects.
So
And that will be detailed again in a explanatory statement where they'll tell us which program projects are being controlled.
But it is for the agency,
the 1 million is for the agency.
not for a specific office,
So the agency as a whole cannot reprogram over $1 million?
in any particular program area or specific project.
Okay. How will we know what our office limit is?
Offices don't have specific limits. It's cumulative throughout the agency. We keep track of that in headquarters or in our team. And we run reports, and if we're approaching our limit, we'll send out notifications. Yep. And again, I'll get into reprogramming, 'cause there's a whole section specifically for that.
Joe, let me add, and her question would be, how would she know how much in her office? Your guidance in that area would be coming from your senior budget officer.
Okay, so a lot of you here, we get rescissions. EPA gets rescissions every couple of bills. And so here you see, in addition, 80 million is hereby rescinded from prior year funds. And I guess you can go on and read that. But yes, Congress did at one point try to rescind, and did rescind $80 million. And that's going to be a hot topic which is going around the agency right now, which is the unliquidated obligations. That's what they were targeting. And we're going to mention that and target that specifically when we talk about ULOs. Okay, so we're getting a lot of stuff. I'm keeping track, or our team is keeping track of what's going on the Hill. We have the appropriations bill language, which we assume is law. We have the conference reports, and we have the House and Senate committee reports. So the question becomes, what do we in EPA take as legally binding to perform our mission? Or what do we consider law? So if it is in the bill language, that's law. If bill language references reports, a House committee hearing, if it references anything, we consider that also to be law because it's referenced into the bill. But it's also general EPA policy to act in accordance with the views expressed by our congressmen and congresswomen. Again, we try to take congressional intent for what it is, and if they're trying to say or tell us to do something, we try to follow it as closely as we can, even though it may not be written directly into the bill. Okay, so what if Congress doesn't pass a budget at the beginning of the year? And for those of us that were around in 2013, we stayed home for a couple of days. It shuts down. The agency has no authority, no spending authority, and that's what it is, no spending authority to stay open. They can't pay us, we can't pay ourselves, we can't pay ourselves to do work. We do not have authority to the money. But what most likely happens is that we get a continuing resolution. And if you've been here for a while, you've probably been in some years, I know 2012, there were probably 4, 5, 6 continuing resolutions. And we started this year on a continuing resolution. And basically what that says, it funds us at the same exact levels, with the same exact bill language as last year. We can't do anything new. And this really cripples us, and it may cripple, or you may think from yourselves from FCO, there are, in our strategic plans or the way we're trying to go about our mission, if we're trying to cut back on a program project or reprioritize or discontinue a program project, by law, we cannot do that under a CR because we're still bound to last year's bill. So basically, the biggest thing there is nothing new can happen under a CR. So the OMB apportionment, they say that Congress has the power of the purse. And what I like to say is that what is as equally powerful is the power of OMB's apportionment authority. So even though Congress passes this bill, this funding bill, and the president signs it into law, EPA technically cannot go ahead, cannot move forward with funding. We have to request the funds from OMB that Congress just gave us. And so that might take a while. Some of you are wondering why, and we're going to get into in the next few slides. When do I see money in my accounts? That's what matters to you most. Do you want to see that funding? It might take an extra couple days, or in some cases weeks, for OMB to sign off. They are asking us questions. They get a little curious or concerned about a program. And even though we're authorized at a level from Congress, OMB says, hold on, I want more details. So it's the executive power's ability to control and manage what the agencies are doing. We are apportioned all up front, meaning we get all our money when we request it. Most other federal agencies, if you work there, are apportioned quarterly. They have to request their funds to be issued quarterly.
So can you mention the form someone asked about is a 132 form? That's the equivalent of the apportionment.
Yeah.
Is the apportionment.
Right. So we had a question at the beginning of the course about the SF 132. That is the apportionment. It's our apportionment document. And those are the levels. That's giving us the authority, the levels at which we can spend up to. If we go over those apportioned amount, that's where we run into the ADA violations. So just some quick budget terminology. We kind of already went over this. The appropriation is what we get from Congress. Apportionment is then OMB, the executive branch, giving us their authority to go ahead and use these funds. And then the allowance, that's when you guys start seeing it in your funds, seeing it in your accounts. Once we get the okay from OMB, our team will load the budget into your specific offices, and that's called our allowance. And the EPA gives particular parts of the agencies, and that's the NPMs, the regions, you guys, your portion of our money. And again, the agency allowances, these are formulated at the NPM and the regional level. So questions on that, again, would be best directed at your SBO or regional offices. But we do have controls in place to make sure that allowance holders do not commit and obligate funds in excess of the amount that they were given. And again, that protects us. It puts in controls against ADA. So any questions on the beginning part of how the funds actually get down to where you finally see them? It's a long process, but they eventually get there.